He who digs a pit will fall into it, and a stone will come back upon him who started rolling. Proverbs 26, verse 27. Imagine your entire religion guaranteed that bad people always get what's coming to them and good people always win. No afterlife, no judgment day, justice delivered right here, right now. That's the bold claim of the Book of Proverbs. And it's so confident, so optimistic that two entire books of the Bible, Job and Ecclesiastes, were written to argue with it. This isn't a collection of fortune cookie sayings. It's a theological position with enormous consequences. To understand why this claim is so audacious, we first need to understand what kind of literature we're dealing with, because wisdom literature is unlike anything else in the Bible. Most of the Hebrew Bible tells Israel's particular story. God chose Abraham. He delivered the people from Egypt. He gave the Torah at Sinai and established a covenant. Wisdom literature does none of that. It never mentions the Exodus, Moses, Sinai, or the covenant, not once. Its authority rests not on God said, but on experience shows. The Hebrew word hokhmah, translated wisdom, literally means skill, specifically the skill of living well. This makes the wisdom books, Proverbs, Job, and Ecclesiastes, the most universal and humanistic strand in the entire Bible. Look at this comparison across biblical genres. Where Torah draws authority from divine revelation, wisdom draws from human observation. Where the prophets address Israel specifically, wisdom speaks to anyone willing to listen. Where every other genre anchors itself in Israel's covenant history, wisdom never mentions it. Closer in spirit to Greek philosophy or Confucian maxims than to prophetic oracles, and it's not just unique within the Bible, it's part of something much bigger. Israelite wisdom belongs to a pan-ancient Near Eastern intellectual tradition. The Egyptian Teaching of Amenemopet, composed around 1200 BCE, contains passages that appear nearly word for word in Proverbs chapters 22 through 23. Do not rob the poor because he is poor, both texts say it. Do not move the ancient boundary stone, both texts say it too. The Babylonian councils of wisdom offer similar parallels. The scholarly conclusion is clear. Apart from monotheism, there's very little in biblical wisdom that lacks a parallel in Egyptian or Mesopotamian texts. Israel didn't invent this tradition. It assimilated a cosmopolitan intellectual heritage and made it its own. So what does this wisdom look like in practice? Scholars identify three categories. First, clan or family wisdom. Common sense observations anyone can relate to. The door turns on its hinge and the lazy man on his bed. Parental in tone, addressed to my son. Second, court wisdom, professional advice for bureaucrats and diplomats. For want of strategy, an army falls, but victory comes with much planning. This type originated in Egyptian scribal schools, training young elites for government service. Third, existential reflection, deep probing of suffering, death, and meaning. This is the domain of the Book of Job. These three form a spectrum from everyday observation to profound philosophical inquiry. Now let's examine how Proverbs works, its poetic craft, and its theological core. Proverbs isn't just what is said, but how it's said. Hebrew poetry doesn't rhyme. Its fundamental unit is parallelism, a two-line couplet where the second line relates to the first in a specific way. Three types. Synonymous parallelism, the second line restates the first. A good name is to be chosen rather than great riches, and favor is better than silver and gold. Both lines express the same idea in different words. Antithetic parallelism. The second line states the opposite. A wise son makes a glad father, but a foolish son is a sorrow to his mother. Wise versus foolish, glad versus sorrow. The contrast sharpens the point. Ascending parallelism. The second line completes or extends the first. Like a gold ring in the snout of a pig is a beautiful woman bereft of sense. The image builds from setup to punchline. These structures aren't decorative, Parallelism is the fundamental unit of thought in Hebrew poetry. But Proverbs doesn't just offer clever couplets. In its opening 9 chapters, it does something theologically extraordinary. Wisdom becomes personified. The technical term is hypothesized, meaning an abstract concept given concrete, near-personal form. Wisdom appears as a virtuous woman who calls out in the streets, who invites the simple to her banquet. More remarkable still, she claims to have existed before creation itself, assisting Yahweh in ordering the universe. When he established the heavens, I was there. This is a bold theological move. Wisdom becomes almost a divine attribute with independent agency, not a separate God, but something more than a mere idea. She is the cosmic principle underlying all of reality. Now we reach the theological heart of the book, the moral world order, retributive justice, the principle that people get what they deserve. Good deeds rewarded, bad deeds punished. Proverbs insists with near absolute confidence that the righteous prosper and the wicked fail in this life. No appeal to an afterlife, no final judgment. Righteousness protects him whose way is blameless. Wickedness subverts the sinner. And the system is remarkably self-sealing. A righteous person prospers, system confirmed. A wicked person suffers, system confirmed. The exceptions get absorbed too. A righteous person suffers, lets God disciplining them like a loving father. For Yahweh reproves him whom he loves as a father, the son in whom he delights. A wicked person prospers. Temporary, ruin is coming. Every possible outcome feeds back into the framework. The system is nearly unfalsifiable. That's both its extraordinary power and its fatal vulnerability. This worldview didn't stay confined to individual proverbs. It scaled from the personal to the national. When Jerusalem fell to Babylon in 586 BCE and the people went into exile, the worst catastrophe in Israelite history, the Deuteronomistic historians faced a crisis. The Deuteronomistic school is the theological tradition running through Joshua, Judges, Samuel, and Kings that explains Israel's fate through obedience or disobedience to God's law. They had 2 options, right? Either God is unjust and couldn't protect his people, or the people sinned and brought destruction upon themselves. They chose the latter, preferring to blame the sufferer rather than relinquish the idea of a just God controlling history. The Proverbs worldview made this move possible. The same logic that said lazy individuals fail now explained why an entire nation collapsed. But there were voices in ancient Israel that refused to accept this. And remarkably, the Bible preserved them. Proverbs promises the righteous always prosper. The book of Job responds with a perfectly righteous person who suffers catastrophically, a direct assault on the moral world order. Ecclesiastes goes even further. The wise and the foolish, the righteous and the wicked, all meet the same meaningless death. Radical skepticism that questions whether any moral pattern holds. 3 books, 3 positions. Proverbs builds the edifice with confident optimism. Job takes a wrecking ball to it. Ecclesiastes surveys the rubble and asks whether anything can be rebuilt at all. We're here at Proverbs, the thesis. The rest of the wisdom tradition delivers the antithesis, and the Bible remarkably includes both. It doesn't just state its case, it argues with itself.